Let me get some light here. That's better. Hi, Steve Richardson here, and welcome to Lunch with a Lawyer for February of 2021. Last month, I had a scheduled lunch with a lawyer using some of YouTube's new tools to schedule it, and promoted it over a series of weeks, provided links out to everybody, tried to let the subscribers know what was going on, but ran into some technical difficulties. And those of you, unfortunately, who tuned in and tried to watch were shown a screen that just said, waiting for me to start. And I was unable to start it from that screen. So what I ended up doing was creating a spontaneous live event like I did just now, and went through all the information I had about the changes that are being proposed by Congress and by President Biden, and hope to answer some questions in a live forum. But for whatever reason, people didn't see it. People didn't log in. So I figured I would give it another shot with it, just a straight live, not preset with events and everything else on Facebook, on YouTube, just promoting that on the 24th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I would be live to answer your questions. So I had encouraged people to leave comments in the questions in the comments for the video. I haven't seen any, but again, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to ask a question or put something in the chat on this subject. I don't see anybody yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, just highlight again what is being proposed in changes, to give a basis for any questions you may have. If you have any questions, post them. If there are no questions, I will end the live event. But I just wanted to give everybody another opportunity to ask their questions. So let's get into it now. Congress has some things that they want to do, both in the area of student loans and bankruptcy law. I know Senator Warren and some other legislators in Congress have proposed reform acts to the bankruptcy code to try and make it less stringent when it comes to student loans, and easier to get discharge relief for them. And in addition to some of the things that President Biden's been talking about. So a lot of what President Biden is talking about has to do with student loan forgiveness. And he first talks about forgiving up to $10,000 in loans per borrower, and that he would forgive tuition-related student loan debt for students who graduated from public colleges, historically black colleges and universities, or minority-serving institutions, and who earn less than $125,000 per year. Now, I'm not sure why he is limiting this forgiveness, this tuition-related debt, only for students that go to public colleges or these historically black colleges or minority-serving institutions. There are a lot of people that go to private schools, private colleges, and have a lot of debt. They should be able to make those choices to go to a private school. Nothing wrong with that choice. I went to a private school. I didn't go to a state institution. And people run up debt that they can't afford to pay. So I'm not sure why he's limiting this type of relief. Now, he is talking about knocking $10,000 off the top. For people that are in serious financial distress, and I've talked to people that owe $50, $60, $80, over $100,000 in student loan debt. Sometimes if you've gone to medical school, if you've gone on to law school or any postgraduate education, and that can really run up the debt. Next, he proposes to reform public service loan forgiveness. Now, they're talking about the public service loan forgiveness. It already exists. It's already there. If you are an employee of a public entity or a qualifying nonprofit or charity, and you work full time and you make 120 payments on your direct loans, cannot be a FEL loan, a federal family education loan, in a qualifying repayment plan. So you got to check all the boxes. Then after making those 120 payments, you can apply to have any balance forgiven tax-free, which is a great program and encourages people to work for public entities and nonprofits. So I'm not sure what his point is about this. It already exists, but, and of course, the new income-driven repayment plan, and I think that this is one of the biggest steps that you can take under income-based repayment, which already exists. The original IBR, it is capped at 15% of your disposable income. So if your monthly payment ordinarily would be higher than 15% of your disposable income, as determined by the Department of Education, then it would be capped at that figure. Then new programs like Pay As You Earn and Revised Pay As You Earn, and there's a newer version of IBR, go to 10% of your disposable income. And as far as the term of payment, IBR would be 25 years, but Pay As You Earn and these newer programs are 20 years. But here, what he's doing is cutting the monthly payment to 5% of discretionary disposable income. And he defines that as the amount by which adjusted gross income exceeds $25,000. So borrowers will not have to make any payments on their federal student loans, and interest will not accrue if their income is below $25,000 a year. And the remaining debt will be forgiven after 20 years of payments. So it's 20 years instead of 25. And the loan forgiveness is tax-free. Now, the two big things to bear in mind with this new income-driven repayment that President Biden's talking about is, number one, it now cuts the cap in half from 10% to 5% of your discretionary income. And as opposed to other income-driven plans, where the debt may be forgiven, the IRS looks at forgiven debt as being income that's taxable. Here, under what President Biden is talking about, it would not be taxable, like public service loan forgiveness is. So this, I think, is the biggest thing, next to restoring bankruptcy discharge of student loans. Now, he proposes to repeal the section of the code that gives this protection. Now, bear in mind, there's a long history of bankruptcy discharge of student loans that goes back over decades. Originally, if you had a student loan that was backed by the government, state or federal, then you had to pay it back. And if you tried to discharge it in bankruptcy within 5 years of the loan falling due, then you had to pass a very stringent test. And you probably heard of the test in showing undue hardship, that you have to show that you cannot maintain a minimum standard of living if you're forced to make the student loan payments. Number two, you have to, this has to be a persistent state of affairs, not a temporary situation that you lost your job. Finally, you had to make some good faith attempt to repay the debt. Well, this three-part test makes sense under the original bankruptcy code, where for the first 5 years of it falling due, you had to pass that test. So it says, hey, look, you just got out of school and you've been struggling for a couple of years and you want to try and get rid of the debt. You know, you have to try a little harder than that. And you have to pass that stringent test if you want that discharge. But after 5 years, you don't have to pass that test. Okay, you tried. You had 5 years. We're not going to make you jump through all these hoops. You can get your discharge. Then 5 years became 7 years. Then 7 years, and that period just went away. And now, no matter what, if you have a government-backed loan or a loan backed by a nonprofit, then you have to jump through these tests, what's called the Brunner test, or in some areas of the country, they They call it the totality of the circumstances test, but it's still a very tough test to meet. So if they're taking that away and they're allowing for discharge, that's huge. If you're not able to pay, if you're truly not able to pay it, so that's pretty big. So I see we're 10 minutes into the program. Let me check and see. I don't see any comments. I'll go a little bit further and try and go over a couple comments here about what's going on with these changes, and give everybody the opportunity to get notifications and come onto the channel. But if not, what you can do is you can leave a question in the comments to this video, and I will try to do either future live events on YouTube to answer the question, or simply release a video to my channel that answers that question. So, even if you didn't have the opportunity to see this show live and ask your questions of me live, I encourage you to leave a question in the comments, and I'll either do another live event, or I'll just release a video that answers the question. So just a couple other quick comments. The $10,000 per borrower. There's a site called NerdWallet. It's worth a read. Take a look at it. Good personal finance stuff. It said that more than a third of federal borrowers could see the balances fall to zero with $10,000 in debt cancellation. Among those, 7.9 million owe less than $5,000, and 7.4 million owe between $5,000 and $10,000, according to federal data. And amazingly enough, these are also the borrowers most likely to default on their loans, which seems kind of odd and a bit counterintuitive. They owe $5,000 to $10,000 as opposed to people owe $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, or even over $100,000. Over half of those who default, 52%, have less than $10,000 of federal undergraduate debt. And this is according to an analysis of federal data by the Institute for College Access and Success. And the typical student leaves school with around $29,000 in debt. So if the typical student leaves with $29,000, and most people who default owe less than a third of that, that's a question I think needs to be answered. Why, what value did they get out of that education for that small amount of money that they can't even afford to pay that back? But the flip side is also true. It says higher income households as a whole are the ones that hold the most debt. More than 8 million people owe the government between $40,000 and $100,000 in student loans. An additional 3.2 million borrowers owe more than $100,000 on their federal loans. So it's interesting to see. Now, certainly that $10,000 per borrower, if that's the upper end of the amount of student loan debt that it represents the most defaults, then I guess you're helping most of the people, more than half, 52% of those in default. So that's a good number that makes sense. I just question why most of the people in default are the ones that owe the least. Now, again, new IDR plans, I think that are the best shot at changes. Now, and you earn less than $25,000, you don't have to pay anything. Now, that's reevaluated every 12 months. This isn't a permanent thing. For those of you who may not be familiar with income-driven repayment plans, you apply, you provide your adjusted gross income, either from a previous year's tax return or from financial records. You then sign a certification as to the size of your family. They then calculate your disposable income from there, apply that and to your loans and look at what a regular payment would be, and then kick out an income-driven payment, which is good for 12 months. And then at the end of that 12 months, you provide them with, again, income information for the previous 12 months, along with certifying as to your family size, and they give you a new number. And then that continues on under this proposal for a maximum of 20 years, and if it still isn't paid off, then the balance is discharged tax-free. So it gives you the opportunity to try and pay it back at something that is reasonable and that tracks with your income. So I think that in combination with the changes in the bankruptcy laws that are being proposed, if you're really in that bad of shape that you have to file bankruptcy, okay. But if you want to try and pay your debt without filing bankruptcy, which I would suspect the vast majority of people want to do, then you can try income-driven repayment and try and tough it out that way. And then eventually if there's any balance, it just gets wiped out. So that's what's being proposed. So keep an eye out on what happens, over President Biden's first 100 days as Congress goes back into session and starts looking at these legislative proposals. Hopefully something will come of that. So I don't see. Oh, here we go. Would this be the best time to look into forgiveness for student loans if I was looking into bankruptcy? I watched your previous video, not sure if I qualify. Okay. If you're looking to bankruptcy, that's a separate analysis. Bankruptcy may be the best thing for you, but bankruptcy laws are still tough. They still are what they are. There haven't been changes. And although there have been a lot of radical changes proposed, radical is my opinion, of the bankruptcy code, the likelihood of it being passed, at least in its current form, I understand is not very high. So I would, if you can wait to file bankruptcy, I would wait. If you can, it's kind of tough to answer your question because I don't know enough about your situation. There might be some forgiveness options available to you under the current laws. So I would talk to a student loan attorney. If you're here in New Jersey and you want to reach out to me, you can give me a call at 856-432-4113. Be happy to get a little bit more information about your situation and see whether there may be a currently existing forgiveness program for you. Also, I don't know the extent of your debt. If you're comfortable sharing that in the chat, let me know roughly how much you have in student loan debt, and maybe where you are in income might give me an idea whether some of these proposed changes to the law might help you. But none of this is still in the talking stages right now. President Biden's still in his first 100 days. Congress has just come back. They just wrapped up the impeachment. They're looking to confirm all of President Biden's appointees. So things are very much still in flux. So it's kind of hard to answer your question. But if I'm not in your area, reach out to a bankruptcy or student loan attorney in your area to get the answer to that question. If you want to provide more information in the chat, I might be able to comment a little bit further. There is some doubt, a question as to whether how much this will help. One said, a Mark Goldwine, who's a senior policy director at the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, had said, "We found that it's all really poorly targeted stimulus. It would boost the economy, but by our estimates, for every $1 of loan forgiveness, it would boost the economy by somewhere between 8 and 23 cents, which you pretty much figure out, as he observed, is a very poor multiplier." But that's not necessarily true. There are other economists that disagree. Other analysts disagree and estimate the multiplier being at least a one-for-one, a dollar-for-dollar change. And a 2018 study from the Levy Economics Institute of Bard College projected that the debt cancellation could boost the gross domestic product by tens of billions of dollars a year and reduce unemployment. So it's unclear what effect all of this would have on the overall economy of the country if it happens. All right, we're about 20 minutes into lunch with a lawyer. I don't see any comments on the stream. Oh, okay. Thank you. Look, I believe it's around 40,000, but that's including a parent loan. So you have your own student loans plus a Parent Plus loan for some children. Okay, Parent Plus loans, they have a different calculation. There's really only one current income-driven repayment plan for Parent Plus loans, and that's income contingent repayment. So that is still capped, if I remember correctly, at 15%. So I don't know whether these proposed changes are just for the students, just for the parents, whether this is an across-the-board income-driven repayment plan, not only for student loans, student borrower loans, or whether they're for Parent Plus loans as well. So, yeah, take a look at the exact amount and what your income's been, your family size. There's some calculators on the web that'll help you get an idea what the payment might be. Check out my website at richardson.lawoffices.com in the student loan section and see what you can find there as far as some answers. So, all right, that's it. We've been at it for a little over 20 minutes. And again, I encourage everyone to leave a comment if you see this video after the fact and I didn't really address your question, or something I said during the video or the previous video prompted a question, then leave it in the comments. Again, I'll either do a subsequent live event for Lunch with a Lawyer, or I will simply do a video posted to the channel that'll answer that question. So that's it. I would encourage everyone, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel by clicking below. And that way you'll get notifications and information that things come out. If you've asked a question, it'll let you know if there's something new posted to the channel, and you'll know whether there's an answer available. Also, click the bell button so you get notifications and be sure you're there. So I try to release 2, 3, 4 pieces of content a month as best I can keep up. So there's always something new on the channel. That's it. I'll let you get back to lunch. And I'm finishing up mine. Got some other work to do and then a full afternoon. So have a good February. Spring will be here eventually. Bye-bye.